Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. I apologize that I didn't have my video my usual time. I've started, maybe you've noticed, premiering my videos around 11 o'clock, to make it early enough for people overseas and, around lunchtime in the United States, if people want to sneak some time. So I hope it's been working out for you guys. If you don't like it, let me know because I listen. But my husband and I were involved. We had a great time, and it was early. Our gathering was one of the early ones. Most of them didn't start till like 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ours was early. Ours was in the morning, and on a very busy passage. So it was great. So, at any rate, I really would like to know how much of a difference these will have made across the country. It's important to show up. In a city that's blue, you expect, a great turnout, and that's what you'll get, But in pockets of America where if there's any place in the state of New Jersey that's going to be red, it's where I live in my area. Now we have blue neighbors, but there are places, neighboring towns and stray individuals who tend to be that way. And we have they have the lawn signage and stuff, so you can easily identify them, So it's important especially when you live in a place like that, to show up, man. And so that's what we did. In the rain. In the pouring rain. And it was no small thing for either of us because we're both older, and my husband's older than I, and I'm arthritic. There's not a spot. The only spot that's not arthritic is my hands. Thank God, because I can do my cards, but everything else is arthritic. Anyway, I thought I would use my beloved Mitelli, and let's investigate. We know that the Pope Leo the 14th, I think message, will be televised. I don't know if I think it starts 2:30 my time, which is New York time. So I'd love to just put it on just to, to show that there was support there as well. So, we represented in this, in Podunk, rural New Jersey, right? And, we'll represent by watching the Pope, because it'll look like, because we want it to look like we outnumber him, because we do. And aside from, the large crowd that showed up, we got a lot of support with people driving back and forth and, beeping the horns and stuff. And some folks, gave us the finger, but I don't know, makes them look low class. Doesn't make me look low class. So consider the source. At any rate, so let's use the Mitelli. I'll do a signature spread just to see how I want to see, hopefully it will answer these kind of questions. I would like to see if the turnout of all across the country and the world, if some other countries are participating, thank you very much for that, to see how we compare. We learned that who was selling seats. He was paying seat fillers $1,000 a seat. They'll get $1,000 in his coin, so you know what that's going to be worth. And they'll buy you lunch, which probably means you'll get a ticket to go to McDonald's, and you have to wear red. You will be given a red hat, and minorities are encouraged to attend. The same people he hates because he wants to use them to show up. So bear in mind that most of the people wearing red with red hats, I guess it'll be all of them, but they were probably seat fillers, But it was just, I'd like to see their show. I'd like to see some reference to the Pope. Hopefully he'll show up somehow. And I'd like to see just this, across America, people who did this protest, to see, how it will play out. How it will play out. And I expect to see some of that presence, and if possible, I'd love to see, dear universe, how his turnout will be, how out. So one line I'm looking for will represent the people, how the people show. Another line will show how the Pope did. Okay, and I'll be able to identify them once we get started. And then the other one will be his parade. So we'll have 3 categories. And one line might not neatly fit each one, but I'll know. I'll pick it up. I'll understand those 3 areas. So this ought to be a fun one. So let me go into my meditative place, and I'll flip the camera. Alrighty. And I love the Mitelli for my signature spread because it's I wouldn't say that it's petite, but because it is long, but it's narrow. Okay, so we have 9 swords. That could, in the context of this question, that could represent, aggression. It could represent authorities. It could, an escalation of authority figures. Okay, another card from the Suit of Swords. The Wheel of Fortune. I'm sorry that my camera's skipping. I don't know how to, I don't know how to fix that. 3 cups under swords. Front and center of the core 9. We have another sword. So we have this. We'll see what the diagonal of that is. And then we also have this. We have 2 coins. We have the Fool. Or I'm understanding it as the Fool. We have what we traditionally know as the Tower card. Let me see if I can do better with this. And then we have the Knight of Swords. So let me go and calculate what the quints are. Remember that I add the numeric valued cards, which in the way I do it do not include court cards, okay? So I would add their numeric value and subtract 22 until I get a number from 1 to 21. And if it's either 0 or 22, in either case, we'll have the Fool. That's why I like to do it that way. So give me a minute. I'll be right back. Alrighty, so you'll notice that I have 2 smaller cards on the side. And that happens when one of the quint cards just happens to already be in play on the table. So we have this other Tower card, or lightning moment, thunderbolt moment. And then we have another Wheel of Fortune. And then one of the cards for the top row is the Angel card, which isn't this gorgeous. This would also be known as Judgment. But I think it is, more properly named Angel in the, but it means the same thing. It's a reckoning or a calling to, it's the same message. It's just done differently. And then this one is interesting because the Mitelli was an interesting deck, right? Instead of the female Pope, we have a standing Pope. And it's clearly a man, so we can't pretend it's not. And we might not attribute, feminine characteristics to it because he's clearly a man. But, it could be relevant. It could be relevant of the Pope. That could be, it's a female. It would be normally, I think it would be in the position of the female Pope. But, it could be showing like a Pope from another area, another place. I mean, there's only one Pope, but I apologize, I'm kind of dry. But in any regard, it's a holy person. It's a holy man, So we could see it as the Pope. The more authoritative Pope, I believe, is the one that's seated, as is like the female, like there's a female empress that's represented again like a man and then an emperor. Well, the Pope and the emperor that are seated are the more authoritative. The others like would have been in the female roles, but they're not women. So it's kind of a tough one, you know. But we can see it overall as the more spiritual grouping, the victor. We have an angel, right up there. And I want to give credit to Shel David, who created this a little mini Mitelli for me. It was my first Mitelli. He knew I wanted one, and he did it. He created one for me, and I always appreciated that. And of course, this other larger one is the Rivoltini Mitelli by Marco Benedetti. So I love this deck. So where do we start? I would like to start by saying what I don't see. And I don't see any cards of the baton, which suggest gatherings of people and people, collaborating to do something, which I really had hoped to see a lot of batons. And I don't see one. So that's kind of distressing. In this row, we have 2 tower cards. So it's, probably the most dangerous row we have. We have the Fool, we have the Tower, and then we have, he looks like he's aggressive to me. So this one row can represent something that's happening to one of the groups. So we have by power of elimination, or process of elimination, maybe we'll see which one this represents. But this one represents carelessness, serious consequences, and the law. Do you see it any other way? I'm kind of seeing it that way. Recklessness, people taking the bait, the one thing we had to remember, you have to remember with these protests, and there's some ongoing now and there's some about to start, is that you got to be above reproach. You have to be above reproach. When they give you the finger, you don't give them that. I'm not telling you what to do. You do what you want, but that's the whole point, is that we're not stooping down to their level. We're showing that we're powerful without having to stoop to that kind of level. So we'll see what this one is. Now, the Wheel of Fortune. Now, this one, see very conveniently that the quint and is on the same row as the card itself. But up here, we have the Wheel of Fortune spread and shared between 2 rows. Front and center of the core 9. Before I speak silly and I don't say the right number. Okay, so we have the 5 of Swords, which I do remember seeing the 5 of Swords in the front and center, and it's next to coins, and it's also next to cups. So this row shows agitation, annoyance, emotions, maybe words shouted at each other, kind of. It's not, I wouldn't say it was violence like we might suggest here, but, maybe something got testy. Something got testy. We have the Wheel of Fortune, and then we have the one of the popes here. I guess they're, I do think that the seated Pope and Emperor are the higher authorities. I think that's the case. So it's kind of hard to say this is a Pope of lesser authority, but it's, I'm not really quite sure what to say about it. It's possible, like the 4 Moors, we could say they're from the East and the West. The only thing is that there's only one Pope, so it's kind of hard for me to see it as East and West in this case. So, I think obviously this is the row of the Pope, and it's also overall. So perhaps the Pope will have had the highest number of people watching or being, tuned in. And the Wheel of Fortune with the Pope. Words. I mean, I guess the Pope, is trying to redirect tensions, between different camps. Although cups and coins play nice together, the sword can agitate either one of these. It's more agitated, it's more, maybe disagreeable with earth, air and earth. But, it could also be a little bit of a agitation with water as well. So I think he's trying to, his message, the Pope's message, will be to try to calm people down or redirect people. I think that's what he's trying to do. Redirect I think he's just trying to redirect, And then the top row I don't know if this would be his parade or if this would be the protesters. One of them is going to be violent or have not a happy, good end, or have trouble. One category will have trouble. I think this is the Pope's row, not just because the quint card, and that quint card's for the entire spread, but, whatever the final quint card, the row that it falls in, I give it a little bit of clout, and so we do have a Pope. And, he is going to be televising or podcasting or whatever it is that it's called, either a mass or something. So I think maybe the day will have him have the most tune-ins. And trying to redirect the dialogue over here. And then this one, which is either then his parade or the protesters, looks pretty good because, we have the angel card, which is a good card, It's getting the message out. It's being heard, in the context of this question. And it is about taking a stand and showing what you're worth, I mean, it's not the fortitude card, but in a way, it's kind of, it's you're not being silent and you're standing up for something. So maybe these are the protesters. And then the Wheel of Fortune. We have Lady Fortuna, who is represented as a nude woman, which is reasonably typical with many of the tarot cards, and sometimes the Lady Fortuna is also nude. So in the context of being on a tarot channel, you will see some nude images in a tarot deck, because historically that's the way it is. So I had to put that out there because sometimes, people don't understand. But at any rate, so here we have the Wheel of Fortune, Lady Fortuna, so she's like freely dispensing stuff. She's not just the change or a redirection as I saw it here, but she's also shining favorably, on this group, this row of people. She's shining favorably. She's being very generous, Lady Fortuna, and along with, being heard or being seen or being, represented or being held accountable, in a good way. I think it's positive. Now here we have, let's see what we have. We have, I see there are odd numbers, 1 and 9. 1 is the beginning and 9 is just about at the end. But, and it's kind of interesting. So it's like it's like one extreme or the other, But, maybe this means that we show out, people showed up in force. We had an opportunity to do something and we did it, or the people did it, So I think this is the protesters. I think these, I think that one just might be the protesters. This one will be the people who are tuned in for the Pope and his message trying to redirect. I think he's, making an effort to make American Catholics rethink their positions, which I think is, he's a spiritual man there. I mean, I'm not Catholic, but I can appreciate that. And then here there's trouble. So we can choose which one we think is going to be the protesters or which one we think is going to be what's happening where he is in his neck of the woods. One will be glorious and the other one will be catastrophic or not be as optimal as one would have hoped. I guess make your own conclusions. Okay, now if you stayed with me for 21 minutes, I thank you so much. Please give us a thumbs up. No, us, it's just me. But if you could give the channel a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, if you've been watching my videos, then it means you probably like them. So I would really appreciate some support if you could support the channel. I don't get much from YouTube, but, maybe every 2 months I'll get, $100, or every 3 months I'll get $100. And it helps because when I get, this is my funny money now because I don't have, I've been, as you know, conservative about purchasing decks. So I've been showcasing most of the decks that I already have. But, you guys are used to seeing new decks on my channel because I felt like I had the leeway to do that. But with things as they are, I think that my money needs to be, I have enough decks and I'm doing what needs to be done for my family, So let's see, let's do another one. I'll come up with something. I'll be right back. Oh, and I'd like to mention, we met people today whose daughter lives in Los Angeles. And her parents being very concerned in what we see on the news, even on independent channels on YouTube. It'll show, from our perspective, it's like Los Angeles is burning down, it's like this horrific thing. And the daughter and the son-in-law said it's literally like 6 blocks, a certain area, like this is happening in. For the most part, we all come and go and do what we please, and it has no bearing on us. It's just like an isolated area that's doing this. But the news is making it look like Los Angeles is burning down. So I told her, I said, I'd pass that on because that's interesting to know. I haven't come up with a question yet, so I have to go off and try to meditate and figure out a question. But I do know that I will be using the Tarot of Marseille, Tarocchi di Marsiglia Hess, 1750, which is a Tarot of Marseille created in Germany. This deck is published by Giordano Berti. And I love this deck. I should use it more often than I do. They have the sweetest faces. Let me see if I can find a face. Look at the face. What a sweet face. They have the sweetest little faces, and it's just a happy deck. Look at the Lover card. Everybody's happy to be there, I think. Let me get it in focus. There you go. Everybody's happy to be there. So I love this deck. Look, even this guy. Look at him. He's even smiling. So I love this deck. And I think I mentioned 1750, German. Once the French Tarot of Marseille emigrated to Germany, this is what they came up with by 1750. Okay, so you guys are going to get a 2 for 2 signature spreads in one video, and it will be a long one. I know some of you tune out long before this 24-minute mark, but for those of you who hang out, thank you. And it's worth it always to read my my description areas. You never know what I'm going to give. I gave a really great video in the descriptive area. I think of the video I did yesterday. So if you want a really good, if I had membership Okay, if I charged membership, that would be a video that I would share with my members who probably, paid it a little, $2, $3 a month. You know what I'm saying? That was a good video. So if you can catch it, catch it. All right. I think I do know what I'm going to do. I can't remember if I told you or not. Excuse me. I'm asking the universe to put it out there. This deck, by the way, Woofy shuffles like butter. Oh, it's a dream shuffler. I've put it out to the universe. Will the presence of the protesters and the people who, like the Pope and that group, will these other groups that don't stand with, will they make a difference? And will this make a difference? And will this help change things? Will this bring the change that we need? Now, I want to give a time, I want to give a time reference. So let's say, let's recognize that things take time, okay? It's not as quick as maybe we would like. But say by 2026, by mid or late or the end of 2026, will this momentum that we have make a difference by then? I'd like to see. So I'm using a most optimistic deck, the camera, going to my meditative place, and we'll get to it. Alrighty. First card is 9 batons. In the context of the question, this could mean collaborative effort, like gaining momentum. We have 9, or the culmination of effort put out by a group of people. That's how I see. And then we have the Valet of Swords. Could be youthful energy. We'll see. So we have 2 swords together, and then we have coins next to a valet, 3 coins. Let's put them out. Let's see what the rest are. And then we have another baton directly under and 1 number less, which is interesting. And we have a king at front and center, King of Cups. May not be someone who's emotionally stable. Let's see what the next card is. Oh, yeah, it's definitely someone who's a little bit on the emotional side, because he's surrounded by batons. And up here, he's not surrounded, I guess, but, this one's not so far away. And, swords could be in agitation, but these 2, he's front and center. Let's see what this bottom card is. He's surrounded by batons. Oh, God, he is surrounded. He's close enough to being surrounded. So this is somebody. And then we have the Fool. A happy face. And the Ace of Cups. Okay. Wow. Okay. So let me add them up. You've already seen how I did it once before in this video, so I don't have to do it again. I'll be right back. Okay. So I had to, it's a little bit of a bigger deck, but if you notice, there are no repeat cards in this. I was able to just use the one deck, which is really fortunate because I don't have a second Hess. I mean, any other card from any other deck would be suitable, but I always like to do these kinds of readings with maybe decks, decks that maybe I have duplicates of, so that I could seamlessly put the other card in. But it doesn't always happen like that. And it doesn't, you don't have to have the same deck. I just like to. So the question was, will these things make a difference to, getting rid of, who, or just, having the tide turn so that by 2026, he's kind of like a nothing burger, and we've turned the house and we've turned everything we needed to turn. So if that's the question, am I being overly biased in saying that on the row that looks like an emotionally unstable leader, right, is getting toppled? I mean, is that my bias? We have, the collective efforts, in this whole row here of individuals. Every single one of these rows, whatever they mean, are showing, individuals, or showing a collaborative effort, right? I see the suit of batons as people coming together. It could be for protesting, it could be in the workplace, it could be any time where there's people who collectively work on something together, sports team, whatever. Now, I wanted to mention with the Hess that this one, okay, it's odd, right? It's 9, and it is 9. But you look at it and you say, well, that looks like 7 batons. So it's a little bit of a tricky deck, and you have to be familiar with it when you use it. So what you need to count is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It doesn't look like that's what it is, but that's what it's supposed to be representing. So I just wanted to mention that. So it's not a misprint of number. It's just kind of, maybe, it's just one of the quirks, of this particular deck. Let's see if this one is the same way. So here we have 8. But then here we literally we count these parts, because this part matches this part, which is supposed to be the case up there, just as it is here with the 6. This is supposed to be 6. It says 4, but but it's 6 because we have 3 here, and then we have 3 on top of each. So this is supposed to match this. That one's an anomaly. So I just thought I'd mention that. So we have collaborative efforts by the people, and I think we probably just need to look at this one row and say the collaborative effort, is making a difference. A surge of energy, it's front and center. We have an unstable king, right? So we have an unstable emotional person. So who else could that be? And the question is, will we make a difference? And, I guess, by showing up and doing our thing and spreading the word and, having our bursts of energy, to collect, it looks like we managed to do it. It looks like we managed to make a dent, and we have to continue to be brave, all of us. I say we in the collective. The whole world has to be brave. Could this be a reference to today, to his parade? I didn't ask about today. I asked if we could make a difference. So maybe that's not about the parade, right? That wasn't part of the question. So I'm not answering. If I'm bringing in the parade, I'm not necessarily answering the question. So we see 2 aces against one another, fire and water. I mean, could it be that, we sort of cancel out, we sort of cancel out together collaboratively in the context of the question, his momentum, I mean, the Fool could be another nod to him, let's face it, right? So could this be that, we cancel out his progression or his momentum forward, and then ultimately he's held accountable. I see the Hanged Man as a card of accountability. You got in this situation because you did something treasonous or you did some type of serious crime. And of course, the people have to be identifiable because the whole point of it was to make them suffer the consequence of being humiliated and disgraced, and their whole family. So I think this is very encouraging that if we continue to be brave and we show up to vote, we have to show up to vote, do whatever it takes, to vote. Make sure you're, show up. Just show up and do it, Voting is a big thing. If we don't vote and we don't have any momentum, by 2026, we probably won't be voting again. So that's how serious it is to get your arses out and vote, and also to participate when we can in things. Because it does look like it makes a difference. There's accountability. There's, something that's not very agreeable to him. There's a canceling out of progress. So I'm encouraged. What do you guys think? Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, and be brave.